Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you are. Thank you so much for your participation in this yet another panel about artificial intelligence and parliaments and its application on legislative services. Today, it's my honor and my pleasure to welcome a distinguished list of colleagues and friends here to this panel, starting with Jonathan Ruckert from NovaWorks in Australia. Hello, Jonathan.
Hi, Louis. How are you?
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
That's right. No problem.
We also have the honor to welcome Dr. Martin Kamprath from the Bundestag of Germany. Hello, Dr. Kamprath. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hello. I can hear you. Can you hear me too?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah.
And we also have Rodolfo Vaz from the Chamber of Deputies in Brazil as well, my dear friend. Rodolfo, can you hear me?
Good morning, Luís. Yes, I can hear you quite well. I hope you can also hear me.
Perfect. Colleagues, before we start, I received a message from Dr. Rodolfo Cinconeghi. Unfortunately, due to a personal unforeseen circumstance, he won't be able to join us. He sent his apology to every one of you about this. As we discussed in my introduction, the goal of the panel today is to discuss the application of AI in legislative services, how this has the potential to transform Parliament. But specifically today, we're going to discuss the enablers of this movement. How can we make these possibilities of artificial intelligence moving forward in parliaments? But before we start, I'd like to yield the floor to each one of you very briefly to introduce yourself, your connection to this role, to this topic. So in 1 minute, I'll do this alphabetically if you agree. Jonathan, can you introduce yourself to the colleagues and tell your connection to the topic?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to participating in this panel today. So my name's Jonathan or John from NovaWorks here in Australia. We've been sort of working with parliaments around the world for the last sort of 17 plus years, specifically around strategy, technology, adoption, digital transformation, and now, you know, a big focus is what we're finding is around the implementation and adoption of artificial intelligence within the parliamentary platform. So that sort of my role is really about the strategic enablers and you know, how you can actually then use artificial intelligence in a parliamentary sense, while still making sure you've got the appropriate controls in place to manage your risk as well around that.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. I'll give a spoiler to the colleagues here. We have recently wrote an article together with Jonathan for the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. I will ask Victor to share the link here with you for colleagues that wish to know a little bit more about this topic as well. Martin, would you like to introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Martin Kamprath. I'm since 2.5 years at the German Bundestag now. So that's one of the two chambers that belong to the German government. So we have the German Bundestag and the German Bundesrat. And the later one, I work now since 2.5 years. Before I had some positions in a big research organization doing mainly innovation management from a more strategic perspective, and then follows two jobs in the industry, in a startup and in a big energy company, which was more related to innovation and digitalization. So why I'm here is I'm one of the, let's say, advisors for the parliament, members of the parliament in terms of digitalization and energy. But we have a certain special project, lighthouse project, as we call it here in the German Bundestag, which is a kind of innovation project, and I'm a co-lead in this.
Thank you so much, Martin. We're certainly going to discuss all of these topics during our discussion today. Rodolfo, I think many colleagues here already know you, but for those that don't know you already, please feel free to introduce yourself to us and your connection to the topic.
Thank you, Luís. My name is Rodolfo Vaz, and I've been working for the Brazilian Chamber of Deputies for the last 15 years. And since 2017, we started to apply some AI algorithms to help improve the work process at the Brazilian Chamber of Deputies. And that's why I think that I was invited for this to join this panel, which I'm looking forward to get many inputs and from our colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rodolfo, for your introduction as well. I'd like to yield the floor to each and one of you for your opening considerations for the time between 8 and 10 minutes on your considerations about the usage of artificial intelligence tools or planned future implementations that you are overseeing in your parliament, or in case of Jonathan, the future trends he's seeing for the parliaments that he's working with. Allow me to start with you, Rodolfo. Please feel free to use the floor. You have 8 to 10 minutes for your presentation. If you wish to share your screen also, please, you are enabled to do so.
Okay, thank you, Luis. I will start sharing my screen. Let me see. Okay. Please, okay, I believe you can see my screen right now, right?
Can you just test changing the slide, because sometimes this is a common error in Zoom.
Right now?
Can you move the slide to see if they're moving?
Okay.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
There we go. Perfect.
Okay, thank you very much. So at the Brazilian Chamber of Deputies, I am responsible for transparency and participation. And because of that, we have, of course, our open data website with many data sets available as web services or as files to be downloaded. And those data sets are widely used by artificial intelligence communities in Brazil, so they can extract all kinds of information, make all kinds of relation between or among different data sets. But what I'm going to show you today is how we are applying artificial intelligence, just to have a view of what we have been doing. So first, we started using AI to solve a problem that the chamber had and that our colleagues were not able to solve due to the lack of human resources, which means the website is geared or is directed to the ordinary citizens, but often the ordinary citizen doesn't understand the complexities of the legislative process. So one of the reasons that led us to use AI is because our communications department of the Brazilian Chamber of Deputies wanted to group the information according to certain topics, the ones that the ordinary citizen is looking for. For example, often the ordinary citizen comes to our website to find anything related to education, if he is related to the education profession, or to science and technology, or to human rights or consumer rights, and so on. The Brazilian Chamber of Deputies has 513 MPs, and we produce a lot of information. And our information department is able to tag around 20% or less of those of that, all the information that is produced by the Brazilian Chamber of Deputies. So instead of us going to them and tell them that AI could solve it, they came to us asking for a solution, and then we started using artificial intelligence. And in this case, what the artificial intelligence does, this algorithm specifically, is to read all the information that is produced by the Brazilian Chamber of Deputies and tag it according to all those 13 topics. The topics were defined by the communications department. And, and just to have an overview, what it does is it tags all the news, all the bills, all the electronic polls we have, all the committee meetings, all discourses, studies, technical studies, and all the laws. It does that for the citizen. So automatically, we can have this. And the citizen, for example, this is science, technology, and communication. The citizen can come, the ordinary citizen can come to our website, choose science, technology, and communication, or any other topic that he wants, and he will have all the information, audio, video, studies, polls, and so on, the agenda, the committee, the legislative agenda related to that specific topic, and so on. So that's one of the things, and that was, I would say, the first real application of artificial intelligence that we decided to use at the Brazilian Chamber of Deputies. And another one that is under my responsibility is the electronic poll, which is a way to get inputs from the citizens to and pass on to the MPs all they are talking about, the bills that are being processed by the Brazilian Chamber of Deputies. So the way it works is very simple. The users can read a very simple explanation, a very short explanation, written with using simple language by our communications department, and this will make it easier for them to understand what that bill is all about. Then they can cast their votes, which is important, but not too important, because we know that the sample is not statistically representative, but they can and they often may leave comments regarding that topic. And of course, we expect them to share with family members and friends, and maybe this e-poll will become viral on the internet. What the MEPs can get from this is, first, they can get the input from their constituencies, how they think about what being discussed in the parliament. They can check how they have voted, but most importantly, the MPs can read the comments that they have left. So if their constituencies is often saying one thing that it goes against that bill, but MEP is for that bill, he has the opportunity to change his mind, or he has the opportunity to explain to his or her constituency why he thinks different from his or her constituency. But one of the problems that we have is that Brazil has more than 200 million people. So although not everyone will, of course, participate in the legislative process using our website, we still have more than 1,000 comments as usual. We have even some with more than 40,000 comments, which makes it almost impossible, or to say not almost, but impossible for the MEPs to read. So what we did is we applied artificial intelligence to group all the comments, because often people go for or against the bill, but with just a small amount of arguments. So what we often get from that is that the artificial intelligence is able to reduce 10,000 comments into just a couple of handful groups of comments. So the parliament, the MEP, will need to read only, I would say, 10 to 20 comments and have a good understanding of what 10,000 people have just said or left as comments in the bill. And other colleagues from other departments are doing other kinds of projects according to the needs of the Brazilian Chamber of Deputies. For example, because of the pandemic, we started using facial recognition to allow MEPs to vote using our mobile application. We are also working on speech text, because most of our committee meetings, or I would say all of them, are transmitted, are broadcasted using YouTube. So we have the video live. The video is often available live, and we don't have the text at the same time. So we are using artificial intelligence to do that. Request routing, because MEPs use our they have advisors and counselors that will help them produce a new law or a new bill. And as we have many MPs, we have to better or to quickly route all the demands that we have, all the requests, to the right counselor. And often, to improve the speed of producing a new bill, we have a artificial intelligence that uses similarity to bring technical papers, bills, and other laws that are really related to a request of the MP. Luís, I thank you very much. I hope I didn't spend too much time, and the floor is yours again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rodolfo. Your timing is perfect. And thank you so much for sharing some of the incredible work you have been doing in the Chamber of Deputies in Brazil, specifically on your case, under your coordination on how to use AI in this outreach, citizen on transparency and citizen engagement. So it's very reassuring to see this responsible usage of artificial intelligence to enhance democracy. Jonathan, I'd like to yield the floor to you for the same time of 8 to 10 minutes. And what do you see as the potential usage of artificial intelligence in parliaments? If you can share a few examples of the parliament that you have been working with.
Yep.
You have a vast experience, so let's tap into that to start our panel today. Thank you so much for joining.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, it's very, very good. So what I'll do is if I can share my screen, I will just put up a couple of different slides which we've been working on recently as well, specifically around artificial intelligence and how we are sort of really using the data, which is obviously quite vast in parliaments, to actually really drive some really interesting benefits, which people may not have thought about yet. So, you know, I looked at Rodolfo's, you know, ways which they're using artificial intelligence is very good, you know, and very good use cases around that. And I think we'll show some other examples around how you can also then apply that to the parliamentary context as well. So let me just share my screen. So what we've done and what our focus has been specifically is really around the natural language conversational style approach to really tapping into the data sets and really working with your own data sets as well. So we've developed a concept of a research center, and we're actually launching this with one of the parliaments on a public level as well. So citizens can actually ask questions around all of the parliamentary data, which is publicly available too. So as an example, we've got here, let's summarize the key amendments of the Statutes Amendments Driving Offences Bill. So using AI, we've actually looked at the legislation, we've looked at the transcripts, we've looked at a whole range of other really interesting data, and we've actually been able to then really condense that into, say, a 5-sentence approach as well, and then providing really the citations to the actual source content as well, which is all public. You know, or for example, what other bills are relevant to the Statutes Amendments Driving Offences Bill? And as you can sort of see, if you've got data there, we can actually then bring that information really into the fold, you know, back to the 1935s or 1961 as well. So we're finding a lot more use around natural language and the use of really about sort of investigating your own data sets in both a structured way and a unstructured way too. So chat and conversation interaction, we're finding from a trend point of view, is becoming a lot more important, especially with the different sort of types of people who are actually accessing the parliamentary data as well. So that might be the younger generation, researchers, that might be, you know, you might have librarians, you might have legal people, and they all have their own different use cases. And so by providing a natural language sort of interface, people can actually have very detailed questions driven to the actual data, or they could have very generic questions as well. So that might be, what did the Attorney General say about this particular topic? Or what did the Premier say about this particular topic in the last sitting? So it's really about driving that sort of more natural approach to that data which you already have as well. So you can then further refine that as well to have that sort of question and answer style, which is really quite interesting. So, you know, and making sure that what we call the data is grounded to your data sets as well. So what we're showing here is actually grounded to a particular parliament's public data as well. So it means that it's not going to use ChatGPT, it's not going to use Google Bed, it's not going to use a whole range of other publicly available data sets like Bing or Google, etc. It's just going to use the data and provide citations to your data as well. So that's a really quite interesting and powerful use we're finding around the use of artificial intelligence within the parliamentary context. And you can then start to actually extrapolate, and we're actually working with a legislator at the moment where they're having bill amendments coming in, and within bill amendments they can actually then say, well, what would be the impact of this bill amendment to other bills? And so you can then start to interlink and drive that sort of interlink content to say, well, if we actually go ahead with this particular type of amendment to a bill, then it would actually impact these three other areas as well. So there's this sort of, parliaments have got such a wealth of information there. And realistically, I think we tend not to use that in a very efficient way. And the use of artificial intelligence really can drive a really good and useful benefit of that whole data set, which may be hundreds of years of in the making, which is really quite interesting. I just want to also, I'll bring up another one, which is basically a quick video, actually, of what we're actually doing on the speech to text side as well. So taking a live a live broadcast and then actually displaying that in a Microsoft Word document as an example, and then having the ability to interact with that in a live basis as well. So I will just load that up here. Just bear with me for 1 second, making sure everyone can see this. Can everyone see this?
Yes, perfectly.
Yep. Good, great. So what's actually happening here is, yep.
I'm not sure if there is an audio in the video, but
there's no audio. This is no audio, so that's okay. But as you can sort of see in here, this is actually every 30 seconds from the live audio. It's actually coming in here directly into the actual Word document every 30 seconds, and then what we can then do is actually then drag that into the content for transcripts, or we can actually do a whole range of really interesting things around this. And when we actually then tap into facial recognition, etc., we've actually then got full speaker identification as part of this process as well. So you can then just grab whatever content you want, put that into the document, you can start to format that. And again, this is just a very sort of basic concept in here for this particular demonstration, but it sort of really shows you that you can start to actually really use that data in meaningful ways, directly within the tool sets which you're actually using right now. So just a, really quick sort of example of, some of the potentials of what we can actually do with that as well.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. It's very interesting to see these different possibilities. And for example, as you mentioned, Jonathan? Okay, there he goes. It's very interesting to see the different possibilities of AI applications in Parliament, and even in this last case, in the transcription on how to empower the Hampshire Department of Artificial Intelligence as the low-hanging fruit. The Parliament could very easily enable and gain much efficiency in its processes. So it's very interesting to see this process in different areas and different services in Parliament. I'd like now to yield the floor to Martin Kamprath from the Bundestag of Germany for his opening considerations, also for from 8 to 10 minutes. Martin, you're also free to share your screen if you wish to do so. So please feel free to use the floor. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the kind introduction. Okay, I don't have any slides to share, so that's why you need to come along with my face on this here. Yeah, actually, we I think compared to my former speakers, I guess we are more in an emerging state of entering the AI battlefield in that sense. We, yeah, as an organization, realize the potential, like many others organization maybe before, with the emergence or with the rise of ChatGPT last year. So last year at the beginning, there was this understanding that this technology is so mature that now it is interesting to think about how to use or implement it in parliamentarian daily work. And still, we had some projects already going on with some AI technology. I think one of the most discussed and also desired technology is these speech to text. So recording notes or committees and put them directly on a text file because the transcription services, the manual transcription services are, have a lot of work to do. And every help that lowers or shortens the time from the date of the meeting to actually getting the meeting note is very welcome. Here we are experimenting with some open source technologies which run on premise and are now in different hearings and communities already in place. But still there's room for improvement, as it always is. So we are now collecting the opinions of the chairs of these committees, how this technology is actually affecting their work and what are the pros and the cons. And the next tools we are already using is, I think that's not a big deal, but still it's something that makes the daily work a bit more efficient, is translation and rephrasing tools that are available already also in the general internet, in the free internet. But still there's room to improve on the one hand, and there's room that enlarges this kind of work. So text work, work where written and spoken language is transformed in any way. I think this is the new interesting use cases that a lot of people from the parliament all over the world are looking at now. Because as Jonathan and Rodolfo already said, with words and with text, this is our operation system in the end. So compared to other industries maybe or other companies that since years have data coming from machines or whatever and could run machine learning algorithms on different sensor technologies, we now with the large language models have the possibility to do something similar in the parliamentary area. So that is what we already do. And there were some ideas for potentials. And especially these potentials, this is maybe interesting because you already you also asked for what's coming up in the near future. And I can give maybe some insight in that, what we are doing. As I already mentioned, we have a certain area created for this. So we call it the AI Lighthouse Project, which is part of a broader program within the German Bundestag, where different topics get a certain outstanding position next to the normal hierarchy. And one of these is the AI House Light Project with the name leveraging the potential of AI. And this project is cornered in a specific project, and this specific project is the development of an automated content-related index application for the library and the documentation department. So this comes from a specific need. So the digital archive of the German Bundestag is getting every day up to 800 press articles, and these press articles in the past were manually coded and indexed by people and then put into the archive. And now we are developing an application that is doing this automatically while searching for specific expressions, looking for synonyms, and collecting this into a structured way where we can handle these huge amount of information for all the members of the parliaments, their employees, or even the staff that supports the work of the parliamentarians. So key is automation, extraction of text. This is what we are now doing. I would say we are in the middle of the process at the moment. So my colleague is leading this project on a very, let's say, straight way forward, but we put it into in this context because we want also not only do one further IT project with a bit of AI technology, but rather put it into a broader context of a, let's say, more strategic perspective to understand the possibilities that emerge from this. So we want to learn from the small project, but also use this as a trigger to look into the broader area of AI, especially AI in parliaments. So we are trying to develop a kind of internal hub where we collect all these information of AI, try to estimate the possibilities, the different use cases such AI technologies may offer for an organization like a parliament, and providing a kind of entry point for AI within the organization. So what we are now doing is that we are trying to build little spin-off projects or think about doing spin-off projects. One is to use AI technologies to enhance the IT hotline. The IT hotline is very intensively used here. So we want to enhance this with a more chat-based approach, may it be written or may it be oral. And the other idea at the moment is to have a specific texting tool for the research service department, so where information and the origin of the information plays a huge role. So, but this is not yet started. This is in the initial phase. So this is more for the near future. Okay, I think that's enough for the moment. I think I'm in the time. So
thank you so much. Thank you so much, Martin, for your opening considerations. You mentioned to me about the Lighthouse project, which I found it to be very interesting, and even shared with some colleagues that shared the same opinion. So congratulations for beginning this movement and the German Bundestag. Incredible. I have crafted a few questions to pose to you. Of course, colleagues in the audience that wish to pose a question as well, you can either write in the chat or you can raise your hand, and we're going to yield the floor to you to pose the question to the panel. I have sent a few proposed questions for you, but if you agree, I'd like to start out of the script a little bit. While you were making your presentations, a colleague sent me on WhatsApp a very interesting consideration. And Jonathan, I'd like to start with you, if you agree, because you gave birth to this consideration. When we discuss, for example, the automatic transcription in the Hansard, for example, one possibility that you covered is the possibility, for example, having the meeting minutes, summarizing, for example, a 2-hour committee meeting in a few points. that in Parliament does not necessarily is integrated. People that does the transcription is not the same people that will actually, for example, do the summarization, for example, to publish in the website or to send to the MPs. What is your consideration on, first, how to integrate the technology side, and secondly, how to integrate the human side on these different levels of services that, when we consider with an AI strategy, would make a lot of sense to be together? Do you have any considerations on this topic?
Yeah, definitely. Really appreciate that. Yeah, comment and question. I think what we are sort of tending to see when we're actually looking at adoption of artificial intelligence within Parliament is really understanding the use case for the adoption of it. And, you know, as we sort of have, you know, seen through some of the examples and some of the tools which are actually being used at the moment, you know, it's understanding, well, what data do we have available to us? And that could be, you know, a live broadcast, it could be an audio stream, it could be, you know, 100 years of transcripts, it could be 500,000 table papers, as an example. It could be, you know, you keep on going, questions and answers, or petitions and citizen engagement and a whole range of other things. So the wealth of data is really quite immense. And I think really having a holistic view and a real understanding of how you're actually going to be implementing artificial intelligence within the organization is actually the first step. So the governance side of things and what the actual assessment sort of process is around that. So for example, what we've been working on for the last sort of 3 to 6 months is really about developing a toolkit or developing a toolbox of really like either open source information to do testing on fairness, as an example, or, you know, how would you actually really practically, you know, adopt artificial intelligence in a practical sense as well. So, you know, we obviously did the article with yourself, but other things which we've actually been working on is, say, for example, well, what would a responsible AI impact assessment look like, as an example? So, you know, and what does that actually mean? So involving those stakeholders, involving the members, involving the key staff to really get a feel for what the actual AI impact is, and doing an assessment and an official assessment on the information and also the technology which you're actually going to be looking at using. So, you know, it's understanding, well, what does the description, you know, look like, as an example? What's the purpose of the actual system that you're actually trying to implement? You know, what are the system features going to be looking like? Also, you know, taking into consideration, as an example, as a platform, you know, what are the geographical areas? What are the language requirements as well? You know, and this sort of, I think, from previous debates, we've sort of been thinking, you know, a lot of the sort of large language models have been directly correlated to English. So there are a lot more newer models coming out, which are then tailored to other languages around the world now, which is really quite exciting and a really good trend we're seeing as well around that. Other things would be, for example, understanding what who the stakeholders are which are involved in that. So as per your sort of question, when we looked at and showed the transcription side, we could actually say, well, we see multiple benefits from that. We could say, well, we could do votes and minutes. We could do, you know, automatic agendas. We could do summarization of question time. We could do, you know, a whole range of really interesting things, you know, just by looking at the data and how that could be used across the whole institution as well. Looking at what the potential benefits are, but also what are the potential harms as well. So, you know, because we always try to look at benefits, but it's also, when we're looking at artificial intelligence, it's mitigating your risk around what the potential harm of actually implementing something might be as well. And again, it might be minimal, but harm could be relatable in multiple different ways. It could be a human harm. It could be, you know, it could be, well, I'm worried that this is going to, like, I'm going to lose my job, etc. And so there are a lot of different ethical considerations and fairness considerations which need to be considered when you're actually doing a assessment and an impact analysis around that as well. like what, for example, like, what are the goal-driven requirements? So we look at that, what is the human oversight and control as part of that process? How are we looking at disclosing the use of AI interaction as well? What communication are we going to use to stakeholders? So, because, when we're actually looking at stakeholders and the use of artificial intelligence, they're going to always think about what's the impact to me and what's the impact to the organization. So communication, when we're looking at the adoption of artificial intelligence, is really important. What are the fairness considerations which we're looking at with the adoption as well? So we might be saying, well, we want to minimize stereotyping. We want to minimize, in introducing bias as an example. So, what do those sort of goals look like, and how, could that demographic potentially be impacted by the adoption of that AI as well? So there are really some interesting questions which we're sort of starting to really formulate around what those sort of assessments could actually occur, and then having really a templated approach to say, well, when we're looking at then now, adopting that. So for example, like Rodolfo, like in your example, when you're doing, you might have 40,000 comments, and then you want to summarize those into, well, these are the, the key themes and etc. The impact assessment around that would be, well, we want to make sure that we're not losing data, as an example. So, and we're not losing insight into those 40,000 comments. So you need to feel confident in those sort of processes, and, again, doing the due diligence, doing the testing, doing the training, etc., and really having that sort of robust process to make sure that it is adopted in the right way.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for your answer and your considerations. Rodolfo, would you like to comment on that as well?
Hello, Luis. Yes, thank you. Jonathan gave a very detailed description of everything, and I believe that the whole process needs to be well tested, because AI is a new technology, and as he's pointed out, in our example, getting 40,000 or 10,000 comments and bringing and reducing it to 10 or 20, we have to be careful about doing this, because we can lose information that is important for the MP to consider doing his work, elaborating a new bill, or just deciding how to vote. So the whole process needs to be rethought. We have to be very careful, since we start getting data, then training the model, and then testing it out to see if it's working properly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rodolfo. Martin, would you like to share your comments on this question as well?
Yeah, for sure. So from our experience and from our approach, we try to focus a bit more on applications that are maybe time-consuming in the more daily work. So I think we have, due to this new technologies, the possibility to reduce boring, monotonic work for people. And I think this is the best way to introduce such technologies to people, to get them on the pain point, to extract these pain points. We realize that it's very important to speak the language of the people who later should use these AI technologies. So starting from the user and starting from their pain point, and then translate the capabilities of different AI technologies, it seems to be a very interesting start to identify maybe solutions that are maybe not that high-end or very, very sophisticated, yeah, but maybe they have a certain impact, because if we maybe reduce the time to, let's say, create a text or whatever, that saves, let's say, 1,000 people 50 minutes a day, has a huge impact. So even if we have certain small or single tasks that maybe have a huge data aspect, so producing data, a single one, maybe it is interesting to think about which use case you prefer to start with. So do you start with maybe these analyzers of the 40,000 comments, yeah? Or do you start in the other way where you say, okay, which is maybe impacts a lot people, but maybe not in that huge impact. So I would assume that the comments on a certain law maybe is a huge an impact in terms of the role of the parliament. But if you come from the role of let's say a small, not small, but someone who's working in the middle of the administration and has a task that is maybe more hidden from the outside, then it's also it could also be a very, very big trigger to make use of AI. So, but that's, I think this is very different from organization to organization, also from the people who are in charge of bringing the AI topic to the organization, where they maybe have the first good start steps. And I think this needs to be, regarded or needs to be a starting point when thinking how to get AI to the people.
Thank you so much, Martin, for your considerations on this topic. Rodolfo, allow me to bring my next question to you. And since you mentioned how to provide these solutions to the members, I want to focus a little bit more on the relationship with members and the AI strategy in the Parliament. And in the process of implementing and integrating AI technologies within parliamentary operations, engaging MPs is crucial, both to get their views, their priorities, of course, to get the approvals required for a process change or even an update to the rules of procedure. I can name countless possibilities that an MP should be involved in this process. So I'd like to ask your view on the significance of their involvement in the transformative journey and the strategies adopted to ensure the active participation and the ongoing support that you require. And moreover, how do these efforts impact the legislative process, the decision-making, and the overall parliamentary efficiency, in your opinion?
Thanks, Luís. First of all, I think that we at the Parliament, we work with MPs, and that's really important. It's crucial because of two main reasons, in my perspective. One is for the development of AI inside the Parliament to bring better solutions that can streamline all the work processes that we have inside the Parliament. But mainly, there is another one, which is the development of artificial intelligence inside the country itself. In our case, inside Brazil, of course, because because the MEPs will produce the laws that will allow AI to develop inside the country, or may refrain it from developing as fast as it could be developed. And one way of ensure the involvement of the MEPs, because we know that technicalities are not, they don't appeal too much, of course. Technicalities don't engage people. So we worked with our colleagues from the communication department, and we decided to launch a group, the idea of artificial intelligence, and we named it as Ulysses. And we named it after an important Brazilian politician called Ulysses Guimarães, who was 2 times the president of the Brazilian Chamber of Deputies, and a person who was also paramount during the elaboration of our constitution. So we did lots of presentations for everyone inside the chambers, and other presentations that are directly that we directed to different groups. And thus, in such a way that nowadays, no one talks about AI inside the chamber. They all talk about Ulysses. So we have Ulysses 1, Ulysses 2, Ulysses 3, and so on and so forth, just to give a less abstract view of artificial intelligence. And I think that because of that, they also don't fear it that much. Well, we have heard of many parliaments from our colleagues from other parliaments that sometimes even the MEPs or even the administrative staff are worried about AI. I believe that at the Brazilian Chamber of Deputies, because of that, of course, everyone fears, but not that much, you understand? And what the impact that AI has had or has been having inside the Brazilian Chamber of Deputies is that we brought new possibilities that we didn't think before, like the possibility of the MEP being able to vote via a mobile app, which occurred mainly during the pandemic, but they still use the app, doing things that we couldn't do before, like that, and streamlining the process, making things that we lacked human resources, and so on. So I guess that's my perspective, Luís. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rodolfo. Martin, would you like to share your perspective on this topic as well?
Yeah, sure. So, of course, members of the parliament are the core of the parliamentary work. So this is sure, but when it comes to AI implementation, I think they're just one group. They are just one group, and there are, of course, for example, their employees they have. So when they are working in the delegate offices, they have several people working for them and organizing the offices for them. Then we have the staff of the administration, of course. Here we have the employees, we have the let's say middle and top management, and we have also committees where these both sides meet and discuss together. Also, for example, in terms of IT development and what kind of directions in the future should be taken. And so it's for me very hard to distinguish, to draw a line between these groups and to say, okay, what is important for them and what is important for the others. So I think in the end, there needs to be services that are relevant for everyone, or at least that the people have a common understanding what the potentials and use cases are. And we don't have, or not everyone has the resources to start with everything and to have maybe within a few weeks or months like a very interesting system like Rodolfo has with the Ulysses issue. But so you need to start having an idea, doing step 1, 2, 3, and 4. And of course, this needs to be aligned between all these different stakeholder groups that I mentioned before. So, of course, you have a driving force, and maybe you also have special environments where you discuss the AI developments and how to use them with the members of the parliament. But on the other hand, this industry interest is of course somehow then balanced with what the IT can actually really deliver within a certain time frame and with their limited resources. And on the other hand, what is the biggest impact also for the members of the parliament? So if there's, for example, if there are tasks that could be done for other people that are not directly related to them, then it maybe has an indirect impact, which could be huge. So anyway, so that's why we try to understand what are the different activities in the parliament that can be supported by AI. So we came up with an AI use case map, which has up to now 150 applications for AI in a very wide sense. Yeah, and these are not only activities that you can refer to one group or the other group. Some are so general and ground-based that I would say everyone would say, oh, yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting capability that this technology can do. I could implement that in my daily work here, and here. So I think it needs these leverages, these use cases where you say, hey, this is the one where you have with the lowest effort, the highest impact, but it needs to be, of course, then challenged with the risks that they provide, as we already heard, that risk or the what could harm other people while using these AI technology. How does it relate to the benefit of it?
Thank you so much, Martin. Before I yield the floor to Jonathan, if this document the possibilities on the usage of AI that you have mapped is public, I think that will be of much interest both for us and colleagues to watch, to read actually. So I will be much interested myself in my personal capacity to see the results of your research. If it, of course, it's open for the public.
Not yet, but I think we are working on it. So yes, later.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Martin. Jonathan, I leave you to close the round for one particular reason. You have worked with different parliaments, and you have dealt with the work of convincing members, of involving members. What are your thoughts on this? How to involve members in this process to implementing artificial intelligence in their parliamentary procedures?
Yeah, definitely. It's a really good question. So sort of bringing it back, I think it was about 2 or 3 months ago, I was speaking, or I got reached out by a member of parliament, and they wanted to discuss my viewpoint on artificial intelligence in parliaments, and also though to the wider nation as well, as an example. And I think, one of the things which we have to sort of be like considerate of is that if we're looking at adopting artificial intelligence within the parliament, however, the parliament still has not necessarily decided how they wish to, say, regulate the use of artificial intelligence within the country. It can be a very difficult proposition to then suggest to members of parliament all these great benefits and uses within the legislative framework, because if they can't themselves work out a law or work out a regulation or work out a framework where they say this is actually what we agree from a legislation point of view is for the rest of the community, we find that sometimes it can be very difficult to actually then gain an adoption within the parliament itself, because if I can't articulate to the country or the demographic of how they actually wish AI to be used in an ethical manner, they can then struggle to work out, well, yes, these are all really good use cases, but how does this then apply to us? Because if we can't work it out ourselves in terms of what we're wanting to achieve, then how can we actually then use it ourselves? And I think that's an interesting concept to look at. What we do find, though, in reality sense, is that parliaments have been a lot more adoptive and a lot more interested in artificial intelligence, especially in the last 6 to 12 months. So they will want the benefit, because everyone's very familiar with, say, the chat GPTs of the world, a whole range of other things, and they will probably use it in their day-to-day right now, or their staff would actually then use it on their behalf as an example. And that might be answering a constituency email. That might be, doing some research on a particular topic as an example. And they're using, again, the public sort of chat GPT model. So they are familiar with the concepts. They're familiar with the benefits and what they could potentially get out of it. So it isn't like it's a foreign technology, or it's a foreign concept to them itself. So it's just really, I think, about really establishing the correct ethical frameworks, the correct methodology, the correct things, and also keeping them involved in active communication as well. So making sure that you are communicating with all the stakeholders, you're understanding what the benefits are, how you're going to manage the risk for the parliament, and a whole range of other things. If you're communicating that with the members, they're going to be a lot more receptive, and they're going to start to actually see those benefits in a real-time base, which could then in turn make them, having better legislative decisions going forward as well. So, and that's the other thing which we're also finding, is that by leveraging the data, and again, like the open data or the data which the Parliament is actually producing, we're finding that, even members can actually then refer back to or make decisions in a more timely manner. So as an example, we in Australia, or in sort of other jurisdictions that we've worked in, they may be dealing with, for example, they'll have a inquiry or a committee, and they will gain a submissions for a bill or submissions from the public, and that might be 30,000, 40,000 responses. So again, like the summarization is really critical to them to make better decisions in a more timely manner. So what is the sentiment in my electorate or my constituency? What is this and what is that? So it's really about, I think, giving them the right tool sets and the right use cases to really gain the right support to then have a wider, sort of approach to that particular process. As Martin said, he's already identified 150 different use cases, which is, phenomenal, which is great. And I think, there are so many potential use cases out there with members or with their staff, etc. I think it's about narrowing the scope to be very defined when we're actually then interacting with them.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for your considerations on this. And it's good that you mentioned Martin, because Martin, I'd like to bring my next question to you. And the question is still human involvement, or how to involve colleagues from the staff that are not from the IT or do not have an IT background. For example, we can mention colleagues of the clerk's office, the legislative council, the specific areas, for example, the committee, answered, I can name a few here. How to involve these colleagues and discuss and understanding with them the advantages of artificial intelligence in the operations of their own business applications. As you mentioned, you have mapped 150 possible applications. So how can we involve them to understand the minutiae of what they need on their daily operations? And furthermore, how do these approaches promote an environment of innovation and teamwork throughout the institution, encouraging a wide-ranging involvement in the adoption and deployment of AI in the Parliament? If you can comment a little bit on that.
So I would say that parliaments, compared maybe to other organizations, are very traditional in that sense. So I mean, they have a huge tradition, and they have also these institutional role to play that is quite unique in the government. So to act and having the part they play, and that's why, from my experience, that the employees here are not that much open, because that fears that these stability that a parliament should provide, also from the working style and also from what is delivered. If you come with a new solution, you bring this in a bit probably in an imbalance. So I think there are certain, especially if you have all these discussion, what is the impact of AI, and then AI is not reliable, it has a bias, it is a doomsday, and so on and so forth. I mean, there are also thoughts that may prevent people from thinking, is AI good anyway, in a sense, or is it maybe just overhyped or dangerous or whatever? So for my expenses, you need a very sensitive touch for that. What we learned in our workshop and presentations and the talks we have with the staff of the administration is that you really need to drag or show the potential of AI directly to their work. So you cannot stay on a very superficial level where you fly high and say, hey, this is the technology, or like, this is ChatGPT, please use it. People won't do that in that sense. Maybe they will try a bit here and there, but it will not be, let's say, an integrated part. So I think you really need to take the hand of these people a bit more and to show them what they actually, what is the benefit of this particular tool for them. So these seeing is believing, yeah, these expression. I mean, this is very, very, the very truth of everything here, where I say people are not all people like maybe we also live in this bit AI bubble, I would say, but not all the people are so engaged in this topic. So they just know a bit superficial stuff from AI here and there. And when it comes to technology, people, sometimes are really bored by that or something like this. But if you really show them what it could be, and I mean, it really helps if you say, hey, this is not just generating text, it could extract text, it could give another tone, it could describe you something in a certain way you want. This is much more detailed than just generates text. So you need to formulate, you need to come from activity side. So what is the activity, what the people do, and where AI technology could help you. And then you need to look what kind of AI technology might help you. So I wouldn't say that you shouldn't throw AI at everything. Yeah, I think this is maybe also a bit where we need to say, okay, let's stop here. Maybe you just need another solution, which doesn't need to be necessarily AI related. But I think if you break down the positions, activities, and really translate what can this technology do, and maybe also give examples and to give access to tools that do that, and you really engage with them, this lowers very much the barriers, and that makes curiosity. And if you then say, okay, let's do it on a certain or in a regular basis, meeting here and share the experiences. This helps the people a lot. I was having a chat with a colleague of mine half a year ago, and he said, so when we had this presentation about the potentials for AI and the research services, he came to me and said, hey, Martin, it's so interesting. I mean, I am a bit over 60 years old. It's only 2 years since I will be retired. So, but I'm interested in this stuff. And I don't have the capacity to learn everything by myself now, but still I have to work 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, these AI technologies will affect our work. So he said, we need this exchange, and I need to learn a bit faster maybe than others. And how can we do this? So there is, if you come to them and say, hey, this is how we are working maybe in the near future, and it's not magic, then I think people see, okay, it's just a tool. It's another tool. And I think this lowers the barrier a lot.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Well, perfectly. Thank you so much for your considerations, Martin. Basically, one thing that struck me when you said seeing it is believing in it, and the importance of, for example, we are here in a panel that with colleagues that are familiar with this technology, but it strikes me the importance of making demonstrations of understanding the business areas and showing real life applications, saying, okay, this is how you do it today. This is how you can do it. And so you can show the potential benefit of this. And additionally, just very briefly sharing a very particular case here from Brazil, where I was giving a presentation about the potentials of artificial intelligence for a state assembly here in Brazil that has about 20 members. And one member inquired me about how to use artificial intelligence, face recognition, to check if the quorum was present in the session. And it was a case of a state assembly that was still running their entire process on paper. Maybe you can invest these resources, for example, in transitioning your drafting system, for example, to XML, on how to move other areas, but not necessarily to use AI for the sake of using AI, for example, in something that wouldn't gain much efficiency in the grand scheme of the operations. So from the two main elements that I get from your considerations is the importance of sharing possibly demonstrations for colleagues of business areas in Parliament, understanding the business deeply, and secondly is to avoid the hype of using AI for the benefit of using AI, to actually have an AI strategy. With that, Jonathan, since I know you, I know you have a lot to comment on that. So please feel free to use the floor.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think, you know, from my perspective, the more you involve people with the change management side of things, you know, you're doing the demonstrations, you're getting the feedback, you're getting that sort of continuous improvement cycle as well. So, you know, it's not just about necessarily the initial implementation as well. When you actually look at this, it's actually then the ongoing feedback cycle, and also the adoption of newer things, because I've said in previous discussions is that in artificial intelligence at the moment, we're in a very very massive bell curve. So the curve is actually going up with the newer technology and the newer sort of ways of doing and using artificial intelligence. You know, if you look at the GPT models, they're releasing one now, you know, it seems like every couple of weeks. So we're, you know, GPT-4, and then you got different versions, and there'll be a GPT-5, you know, coming in the near future as well. And I think, you know, it's understanding then the ongoing, you know, updates to your existing AI models, and it's understanding those sort of other things become really important from an ongoing maintenance point of view, to take advantage of newer technologies and also newer concepts as they evolve as well, because we're not in a what I call a stable state in artificial intelligence at the moment. And it is really important to recognize that when you're actually looking at the use of artificial intelligence as well, and also the discussions which you actually have with staff as well, is understanding that, you know, what you're discussing, say, today, may be a very different proposition in 6 months' time as technology actually evolves as well. So, keeping people up to date, keeping people really informed about, yes, we've done the due diligence on this. We've done, the correct ways of doing it. We've considered the ethical side of things. We've considered the impact to you, because especially with change management, everything is always about, well, what's the impact to me? And really sort of understanding, well, yes, if we were to actually do this, this could actually impact A, B, C, D, and a range of other different areas as well. So it's always going to be a case of the understanding how this sort of technology is really going to benefit the actual user, and promoting that sort of way of thinking as well. Innovation is really important, and the use of artificial intelligence can really help drive innovation. We're seeing a lot of work around legislation at the moment, and the use of artificial intelligence within legislation. When you're dealing with, say, 1,000-page bill, or 1,000-page statute, or 1,000-page, resolution as an example, it takes a significant amount of effort to read it, to digest it, to also present it in a way which is meaningful and in a language which everyone can actually understand. So, there are a range of things which we can actually look at to really drive that adoption. And I think, the use cases and picking certain use cases which will assist quite a few people, will definitely help with that innovation and drive, and, the motivation to actually use this type of technology as well. So, if you have a large amount of use cases, you may want to then say, well, let's focus on some quick wins. Let's focus on high value tasks, high value outputs. Or you might even say, for example, and one of the areas which we find of great benefit is the reduction in repetitive tasks. And that's a really good tool and a really good use case for artificial intelligence. The amount of repetitiveness, or, if you look at, for example, I'll use the Rodolfo's one again, where somebody would have had to manually look through 40,000 comments to generate those 10 summary points, and we know for a fact that if you have lobbyists out there, they'll send off to their members, please submit this exact same bit of text and just change your name, and it's exactly the same content, but they're obviously just trying to gain a support within that particular environment, or that the context of what they're trying to actually interact with Parliament around. And so really, we're looking at saying we'll actually tackle the repetitive tasks, tackle that so people can then focus their attention on high value tasks, would be my recommendation.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for your considerations on this topic. Rodolfo, do you have any thoughts on that matter that you would like to share?
Yes, Luis, thank you very much. And as Martin wisely said, it's not about AI, is not about throwing AI on everything that we can see. So you have to think it over. And one of the things that we managed to do at the Brazilian Chamber of Deputies back then in 2015-16 is that first we gave it a name to make it easier to digest. We did some overview presentations where we showed our employees how AI could help them in their work, and mainly tackling with repetitive tasks, which Jonathan pointed out. And those tasks, after that, we also spoke a bit about the ethics and security issues involved in AI. After that, we started to do some roundtables with smaller groups. And as Martin also said, that we should talk and hear what they wanted to be done. We started to hear them and to understand the main issues they had that AI could help, and we started to implement that. I think that this is a good way to bring in more supporters to the development AI inside the parliament. Is when you go to the people, instead of throwing AI at everything, you just go to them, hear them, see what could potentially benefit their work using AI, and then we would start developing something using AI and engaging them all the way during the development, so they could see the first stages of AI, that it wasn't good. After better training, the results were better, and with their feedback, it could be even better. So I think that that's one way of involve and inform the staff and get their support, and I would say in a healthy way, start using AI. Back then, it was even harder because we didn't have solutions that are widely publicized by the regular media, ordinary media, like Jonathan pointed out. Since the advent of ChatGPT, we have many ordinary citizens using ChatGPT, and now they are eagerly wanting to see AI helping them even further. But I believe that things are becoming a bit easier, but nonetheless, Martian also said, and we have to point that out, that parliaments are, by their nature, very conservative and traditional organizations. So we cannot jump the gun. We cannot try to hurry things up. We cannot try to be faster than the parliament can observe. Well, that's it, Luís. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rodolfo. Thank you, all of you, for your considerations. We are reaching the end of our panel today. Just before we go, I'd like to yield the floor to each one of you for your final message in 1 minute, please, so we can still be on time. I'll do this alphabetically if you agree. Jonathan, would you like to share your final considerations in today's discussion?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, yeah, thank you to the other panelists as well, Martin and Rodolfo as well. Really appreciate your insights, and you know, it's fascinating to understand how you're sort of going through the adoption process, and also seeing some of the wins and some of the elements that you're actually already adopting within your own jurisdictions as well. So it's really exciting to see that you know, take place as well in the parliamentary context. My sort of closing thoughts will be around, you know, it is an emerging technology, and I think we need to really understand that, you know, as sort of everyone has sort of said on this call, you know, parliaments are risk averse, and, you know, it's understanding that, you know, trust, transparency, and accountability are really important to the foundations of what we're actually working with as well. So whatever we actually then do with artificial intelligence really needs to reflect those core values around trust, transparency, and accountability. So making sure that you've got the proper frameworks in place, you know, you've got the impact assessments, you've got all the other bits and pieces before you actually get to the technology point. The technology is out there. A lot of it's now open source, which is really good and exciting, especially from a cost and a financial point of view as well. But I think, you know, making sure you've got that set foundation piece right first is really important to then ensuring ongoing success with AI in a parliamentary context.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, and thank you for your participation today. Martin, would you like to share your final considerations in today's session?
Yeah, so it was a very interesting conversation here, and I think you made a good mixture from people within different stages of these AI implementations. So I think this is really interesting for the audience, that you can see the different stages of adopting, or how to cope with AI. I think this gives very interesting insights of the different process stages. So my points would be, if you start from thinking how to use AI, start with tasks, then go to problems, then go to AI. So if that makes sense. So if you have these 3 steps, I think you can narrow it quite good down where to start, and then you know where to start and how to start with people. I would say consider these seeing is believing issue. This is really so search for direct contact. Then I would say be clear that we have a traditional environment here, so that means people are risk averse, as all the others agreed on this. So think of an organization with 2 speeds. So some go up front and some will follow. So if you say, okay, I want to go up front, then be prepared that some will follow, and you need to make sure that they follow. Common language is very is very necessary, and yeah. So in the end, always test your assumptions. So if you think that is the way, we did a workshop, and every time after 10 slides, we make a kind of small survey where we said, okay, we would say this is how we would proceed. Do you agree? What do you think? So try to get feedback. And yeah, the implementation phase we haven't reached now. So I think this is more Rodolfo's core advantage here to tell us his thoughts about that.
Thank you so much, Martin, for your participation and for your closing remarks. Rodolfo, would you like to share your final message with us?
Yeah, thank you, Luis. First of all, I would like to thank my colleagues for the insights. And for closing comments, I would say that AI is an emerging technologies. It's an emerging technology with wonderful results, but also we have to be careful because it has been bringing sometimes some new problems that we have to deal with. So what I could say is that adopt AI gradually. Hear your MPs, listen to your employees, bring them into the process so they will help you find out when a new problem arises, and thus you will be able to deal with it or deal with the problems in the best way possible. But we have to remember that parliaments are by nature, I would say, conservative, and an institution that is conservative by its nature. So we have to be careful, because if we do a big mistake, that could lead MPs to produce laws that will refrain AI from development for the whole country. So I think that a big responsibility, and you have to be careful with it. Thank you, Luis.
Thank you so much, Rodolfo, for your comments and for your participation. I'd like to thank all of you, my colleagues here in the panel and the audience as well. It was an absolute pleasure to be your moderator today.